It may seem like a big responsibility to tackle that, but think of all the new possibilities it brings. And aren't we all so very excited to start planning for new projects, new partnerships, and new world-class cross-border cooperation to help develop our regions? European Territorial Cooperation, also known as Interreg, is EU's flagship scheme for cooperation across borders at regional and national level to the benefit of all EU citizens. The aim is to encourage cities and regions from different member states to work together and learn from each other through joint programs, projects, and networks. Exactly the things that we have proven to do so well in previous program periods. Overarching task of Interreg is to reduce the impact of borders in order to promote harmonized economic, social, and cultural development within the Union as a whole. Launched more than 30 years ago in 1990. Wait a minute. How is 1990 even more than 30 years ago? I'm sorry, but I don't get that. Let me start over. Launched more than 30 years ago, the Interreg programs have proven that borders are not barriers, and they have brought Europeans closer together by helping to tackle common challenges and creating new opportunities for cooperation across borders. And isn't it so that in these troublesome times, togetherness with our neighbors feels more important than ever? I am Sara Sundbaum. I work for Interreg Botnia Atlantica at the County Administrative Board of Västerbotten, and I am here to guide you through this day. Outside the window here in Skellefteå, where today's studio is set up, we have grey skies, but spring is here and it's lovely to see the light return to us again here up in the north. I hope that you are having a lovely day too, regardless of weather, wherever you are joining us from. We have about 3 hours ahead of us, maybe a little less, and during this time we will get to know a bit more about Interreg Aurora, what to expect from the new program period of 2021 to 2027, opportunities and challenges for the region and for Sápmi, and also some hands-on information about what is to be expected from you as project actors. Somewhere along the way, we will take a break for fika. Unfortunately, since we are online, we can't serve you any delicious Swedish conference fika, but at least you'll get some time to get a fresh cup of coffee and stretch your legs for a bit. So, with that said, I think we're ready to get started now. And with us from Brussels to open the conference, we have Ms. Elisa Ferreira, who is the European Commissioner for Cohesion and Reform. Ms. Ferreira, over to you.
Honourable members of the semi-parliaments, dear colleagues, what a pleasure to be able to address you today at the launch of Europe's newest Interreg program. I find it rather encouraging that you are taking cooperation to the next level by merging two programs to achieve, hopefully, a greater result. You are definitely shining and star examples of cross-border cooperation. You build on a long tradition of cooperation between the northern regions of Finland, Sweden and Norway from long before Interreg existed, as well as several generations of successful Interreg programs in this area, especially Botnia Atlantica and North, whose merger we celebrate today. And it is amazing to witness what you have accomplished, preparing this merger so well in such a short time and in difficult conditions when physical meetings were not possible. But this energy and enthusiasm, this competence and capacity, we will need it even more for the challenges of the future. And we'll need the Aurora program for 3 key challenges. First, of course, is the challenge of climate change. the northernmost regions are on the forefront of climate change. These challenges cross borders, so the solutions must also be cross-border. Aurora can play an important role enabling new partnerships and more streamlined interventions for climate mitigation and adaptation and the green transition. Your region faces specific challenges because of its location, but also because of its scale. At the same time, the specific character of this region, the cold climate, the vast distances, can become test beds of technology in Arctic conditions, testing green usage of natural resources, innovative e-health solutions capable of offsetting distance, and much more. I note here the innovative tradition of the two programs being merged, which developed no less than 6 research and development competence centers. I challenge you to be even more innovative, if that is possible, of course. Second challenge is to protect the precious cultural heritage of the Sami people, a unique way of life, in close relationship with the environment, makes you uniquely exposed also to climate change, and I know this threatens your way of life. But you also possess a rich store of practical knowledge that can help not only you, but also others across Europe and perhaps across the world. And the Aurora program provides a unique opportunity for Sami to continue to work together with other Swedish, Finnish, and Norwegian partners. And this is crucial for building mutual trust and achieving common goals. I know that in previous programs, there were 8,500 participants in activities related to preserving Sami culture, and I hope this continues. But I also hope to see a greater involvement of Sami in entrepreneurship, research, innovation, and environmental projects. I trust that the Aurora program can contribute to this. But this goes beyond the Sami and this brings me to my third point. I know that your regions face a key challenge in ensuring the supply of important professional skills in a cross-border context. I am happy that the Aurora program will support education and deal with border obstacles in this field. I will close by saying how fitting I find the beautiful name you have chosen. Aurora, of course, pays tribute to the beautiful polar lights for which your regions are justly famous. But Aurora is also Latin for dawn, and to me, it is a welcome reminder of our hope for a new day. We need it. All of us in Europe could do with a new day. A new day of recovery from COVID, and I hope a peaceful resolution to the terrible war in Ukraine, but also a new day of a green and digital economy and of better understanding across borders. Aurora can lead the way, the dawn of test beds of new green technology, the dawn of even better cooperation across borders and preservation of the cultural heritage, and the dawn of new skills and new competencies, all supported by streamlined governance and the innovative merger at which you have shown yourselves to be so adept. A new day indeed. I am proud to welcome Aurora to the Cohesion Policy family. Thank you very, very much.
What a fantastic opening speech from Mrs. Ferreira. It was a great signal for us in Aurora partnership, and we really feel us welcome to the Interreg family. So thank you, Elisa Ferreira. The Commissioner Ferreira talked about the possibilities with Interreg Aurora, about cross-border solutions for green transition, and I can agree with her. Up here in the northernmost parts of Europe, we are front-runners for future green transition. For example, on Swedish side, here in Skellefteå, the Northvolt is establishing a huge green battery industry. In Luleå and Boden there will be hybrid and H2 green steel industries in near future. So there will be enormous possibilities for our research and innovation institutes and our SMEs, but also great opportunities for cross-border cooperation between the northernmost parts of Sweden, Finland and Norway. Similar development is happening also in the Finnish and the Norwegian side of our program area. Commissioner Ferreira mentioned also in her opening speech the Sami people, Europe's only indigenous people. How important it is with cooperation between our three countries in language, culture, handicraft and the traditional way of living. The third issue that she pointed out was possibilities to work cross-border with questions related to labor skills, education and reducing border obstacles. We are really grateful for the fantastic video greeting from her, and I will send her a personal invitation to come and visit us here in the Aurora region, so she can be on place and discover the positive development here in the northernmost parts of Europe. So once more, thank you, Mrs. Ferreira. The first Interreg programs in Sweden, Finland and Norway started in 1995. The following programs have in their various forms contributed to numerous cooperation projects that have generated long-term cooperation between several actors in the north. We have, for example, had cooperation in the fields of research and innovation, entrepreneurship, culture and environment, labor market and transport. By consolidating the actors' different experiences, competencies and ways of working, the projects have succeeded to achieve more than that what would have been possible working separately. We have had networking projects where partners get to chance to deepen their partnerships. We also have projects that have exchanged experiences and learned from each other and taken on board new working methods. The third groups of projects that we have seen is the groups of projects that have worked together to solve common challenges, for example concerning border obstacles. In capacity of managing authorities, we have through the years had a fruitful cooperation with all the participating regions and Sami parliaments. Together we have enabled a professional and efficient implementation of the programs. We would also like to thank our three ministries and our desk offices at the Commission for support and good cooperation through the years.
In the last programming period, Nord and Botnia Atlantica have worked side by side as neighboring programs. The two programs have had slightly different orientations when it comes to in which areas you could apply for a cooperation project, and our different geographies has given us slightly different contexts in which we cooperate. Nord having a land border between all three countries, and Botnia Atlantica having a sea border between Finland and Sweden. In spite of some differences in the way our two programs have presented themselves, there are also many similarities. We can see that our respective program has interested partners in the other program geography, as we have seen an interest to take on board partners from the other program area when forming partnerships in the projects. If we look at the program administrations, the two administrations have during the years had a very fruitful cooperation in different areas that deals with the management of the programs. When looking at the future Interreg Aurora, we combine the geographical areas of two previous programs, Nord and Botnia Atlantica. There are several reasons for merging the two programs into one. The Commission has pointed out that in many cases we have overlaps, both concerning the program geographies, but also concerning priority areas. The new Aurora program will be a very large geographical program that can be compared to almost the whole of Spain and Portugal together, or more than 1.5 Germany. There are a lot of challenges to be tackled in the new program. For example, sparsely populated areas, long distances, and lack of public transportation system, especially in the east-west direction. But of course, there are also a lot of opportunities, and let us focus on those. As actors participating in the future Aurora program, you have a bigger critical mass, and you can build new interesting networks and partnerships in the whole program area.
When starting this new program, we can be thankful for the long tradition of cross-border cooperation in the area. One of the uniqueness of the Interreg Aurora program is that it is integrated with Sápmi and the indigenous Sami people. Interreg Aurora will be an important resource for the safeguarding and development of Sami culture, livelihood, industries and the Sami languages. Aurora program is also unique because of its geographical character. We have land borders between Sweden, Finland and Norway, sea borders between Finland and Sweden, and finally mountain areas between Norway and Sweden. In the program area, we have many research and higher education institutes, strong industries and entrepreneurship, rich cultural heritage, valuable natural resources, and the regions are frontrunners for the green transition, environmentally friendly technologies, digitalization, and Arctic knowledge. When we, as program directors, think about cross-border cooperation, it is first and foremost the two words, trust and respect, that comes to our mind. Working across national borders requires trust between partners. This trust cannot be forced. It demands long-term efforts from both partners to build up. Despite similarities between our three countries in terms of culture, language and history, there are also differences. This is where the word respect becomes important. We must understand each other's differences and respect them. This way we can build a sustainable cooperation that generates new ways of working, long-term networks, new business opportunities and creative innovations.
For the programming period 2021 to 2027, we say goodbye to Interreg Nord and Interreg Botnia Atlantica, and we welcome the new Interreg Aurora, a brand new program in which the former two program areas have become one large area with plenty of possibilities for exciting cooperation across our national borders. To celebrate the achievements from Nord and Botnia Atlantica, we welcome you all to Skellefteå 7th and 8th of June, where you also have the opportunity to meet future project partners. Now we will leave the floor to Anna-Marie Auniola from the Regional Council of Lapland. Anna-Marie has been one of the coordinators working with forming the content of the Aurora program. Please, Anna-Marie.
Thank you, Jenny and Iris. And I don't know, should I say good morning to you all, ladies and gentlemen, because it's not anymore so morning here in Finland, but maybe in Sweden and Brussels and Norway it is. But my name is Anna-Marie Auniola, and I was one of the coordinators of the Aurora's programming process together with my colleagues Ylva, Per-Erik and Ian. I will take you on the memory journey of the programming process and tell you how it all started, all the main steps. First, I want to inform you that it should be at the bottom of the screen is the news sticker. You can see all the members who have actively taken part of the Aurora work. I hope you can see that. But almost 2 years ago, the Swedish, Finnish and Norwegian ministries agreed that now was the time to establish a new Interreg program, which could be an amazingly large geographical area, 10 regions and Sami people, with different needs and expectations and covering almost 2.3 million inhabitants in the northernmost Arctic Europe. The following regions and their organization have been involved in the programming process. They are from Sweden, Region Västerbotten, Region Västernorrland, Region Norrbotten and Sami Parliament of Sweden. And from Finland they are regions, Region of Oulu, Region of Ostrobothnia, Region of South Ostrobothnia, Region of Central Ostrobothnia and Region of Lapland and Sami Parliament of Finland. And from Norway, Nordland County Council and Troms and Finnmark County Council and Sami Parliament of Norway. And of course, first step was to establish a joint programming committee. Its main task was to overall responsibility for the preparation of the whole program and, for example, approval of the final program draft. It was agreed at the early stage of the programming process that the coordinator's responsibility should be shared by regions from 3 countries. So Region Norrbotten, the Regional Council of Lapland and Troms and Finnmark County Council had together first time ever a joint responsibility to coordinate, plan and produce a program draft. It was historically a right thing to do. It created a solid and stable base to our work. In my experience, it made our work much easier and faster. All regions from program area were closely involved in the programming process. During the programming, it was decided to set up a working group content, and later on, every chosen policy objective got their own subgroup. This group's main task was to discuss content-related matters and produce draft text. Aurora's program draft content was done by these groups. It required many interesting discussions and meetings. From the beginning, it was clear that we had to do some background research before we could finally choose Aurora's top priorities. So we made, for example, analysis of the program area, like SWOT and socioeconomic analysis. We studied different regional strategies, and we tried to learn from the lessons learned from the previous Interreg programs. We also made some consultation and individual meetings with stakeholders and civil society. We had webinars, we had public hearing, we even had name competition, and we received 139 different names to our program before we choose Aurora. Then we had even questionnaire, and we got over 300 answers which way we should take Aurora forward. After all the information we received from these different sources, we considered them together and made clear choices about which priorities to choose and how to allocate resources between them. I would say that members have heard the expectation and wishes from the regions. I know that the Aurora will respond well to the challenges and opportunities we face in our regions and in the whole Europe. All of these different groups have had more than 100 meetings. This work was not easy when we started late September 2020. It was pandemic. During our work, it was pandemic, and when we ended our work, it was still pandemic. But I never felt any hesitation among our members. They all seemed to be even more determined. It felt like a silent agreement. This is important to us. We are going to do our job, the draft. We never met face to face during the programming process. All our meetings were instead of digital meetings. But every region's voice was heard. We discussed a lot, and our ambition was to discuss so long as we could find a compromise. If we hesitated and if something was not agreed, sometimes we even voted. But mainly Aurora was done by talking and debating. Our members in these different groups were wonderful. They all were interested in future development in their region through cross-border cooperation with their neighbors. After lively discussion, the groups were able to find a compromise. that the whole region could agree on. So many thanks goes to these group leaders, Ylva, Per-Erik, Ian, Susanna and Kairi, who created open and safe environment for lively discussion on these groups. So final thanks to members of different groups from regions and Sami parliaments, and to stakeholders, who many are with us even now online. Thank you for your great input and ideas during this process and interest you have shown to Aurora and all of our events. And thanks go to ministries and commissions to your trust and good advices and comments to us. Also thanks go to Managing Authority of North and Botnia Atlantica to your great help and support of programming process. We can all say Aurora is made by all of us. Aurora is our program. Aurora is a masterpiece of cross-border cooperation. Great ideas know no borders. So thank you.
Thank you, Iris and Jenny, Managing Directors of Interreg Nord and Interreg Botnia Atlantica. And thank you to Anna-Marie, Programming Coordinator from the Regional Council of Lapland. Now that we know a bit more about the Interreg Aurora program, let's move on and learn about how the EU looks upon this new program period. Joining us via link from Brussels, we have Mr. Pascal Boymans, Head of Unit DG for Regional and Urban Policy at the EU Commission. Mr. Boymans, good morning and welcome to the Interreg Aurora kickoff. We are happy to have you with us here today. So tell us, what do we need to do and how can we adapt to continue to do well in cross-border cooperation in this new program period?
Thank you. Good morning, Sarah Sundbaum, and welcome everybody to this kickoff meeting. I hope you can hear me and see me. I'm here with my colleague Dorota Wittelsson, one of the desk officers working on this program, and Louise Floman, the other desk officer. She's listening in. So first of all, sunny greetings here from Brussels. Here it's still morning, so it's a good morning. And the weather is also very great, and we have today also a special day with Joe Biden visiting us here in Brussels. So the city is quite stressful, I would say. So it's a good event also to have a kickoff meeting for Aurora. So what I would recommend, first of all, is to continue at least on the positive experience you had under the two programs for Botnia Atlantica and North. I think the very good performance of both programs, I think, is a good basis to work on. And also, as you already described, the broad partnership, the good preparation involving all the different partners within the region is a very good example to build the strong basis under the program. But besides that, of course, there are some new challenges with not only your region, but let's say the EU is confronted with overall climate change. Your region, I think, probably more than average. The digitalization, these are new challenges which we also would like to address in the new program. So those are new elements, new challenges on which we want to work together with you in the new Aurora program. Can I start with the presentation? I prepared a short presentation, and I hope you can see the slides. I don't think we see the slides from here, but I trust that they are also visible for all the participants. So first of all, what is important when we look overall for cohesion policy, that there's less budget available than in the previous program period. So this, I think, is an important message. It doesn't apply so much to your program, but overall the budget has been reduced. And it's also reduced for Interreg even more than for the mainstream programs. Which means for us that we even need to have a stronger thematic and territorial focus of the programs. So we need to focus our investments, especially on those areas where we think that we can make a difference. And we really also, for Interreg, for the cross-border programs, we really have to focus on those regions which are close to the border, because it's a cross-border program. So to really have the impact most visible seen on those areas which are close to the border. The overall objective of cohesion policy will be a stronger strategic focus on transition to a smart and low carbon economy, I should say carbon neutral economy. and what we call the twin transition. So really addressing climate change, but also addressing innovation and digitalization. And all the programs, also including the cross-border program, also the Aurora program, we see should be contributing to this overall objective for cohesion policy. But at the same time, we should be careful that we preserve the unique character of Interreg, which is really focusing on cooperation between municipalities, between universities, schools, students, individual people, enterprises. That's in the key, that's in the DNA of Interreg, and we should preserve that. There's always a cooperation between partners on different sides of the border. And I'm not saying this without a reason, because last year the Court of Auditors presented a report in which they assessed all the cross-border programs, and they came to the conclusion that there were still some quite projects being supported where this cross-border character was not always that visible. So I think it's important that we all together preserve this unique character of Interreg. On the next slide, you can see an overview of the programs which we are going to support in the new program period. So we will have 4 different strands under Interreg. First of all, cross-border, under which the Aurora program will fall, but also, for example, programs on the external borders with the European Union. So about 72% of the budget is reserved for that strand A on cross-border. The second strand, where almost 20% of the budget is going to, is the transnational programs. And there, for example, the programs for the Baltic Sea and the programs for the Northern Periphery and Arctic are programs which are supported under this strand. Then under the third strand, interregional cooperation, we have 4 separate programs: Interreg Europe, URBACT, ESPON, and Interact, which are horizontal programs addressing all European regions, but on specific topics like, for example, cities or administrative capacity building. And finally, we have a fourth small strand dealing with outermost regions, relevant for France, Spain, and Portugal, for which a small amount of 3% of the budget is reserved. So we have, in total, we expect to support 96 programs for a budget of almost 10 billion euros. That still includes the programs which also involve bilateral cooperation with Russia and Belarus. But as you know, they are suspended for the moment, and so the future of those programs is still uncertain. And also an important element is that in the new regulation, we have now the external cooperation is now fully integrated into the regulation, so which makes especially the life easier for those programs dealing with on the external borders of the European Union. Before they fell under 2 separate regulations, and now it's 1 regulation. So when we focus a bit more on the Aurora program, so first of all, as the Commission already said, big congratulations for you to prepare this program, and we really appreciate the steps taken, the preparation you have taken, and also to merge the 2 programs, Botnia Atlantica and North, now into 1 new program. And I know it was not always easy to convince everybody, to convince all the partners, but I think it's an important step you took, and I think it also offers you a lot of new opportunities for all the partners in the region. So we really appreciate and congratulate you on that important step. And we, as I said already, when you asked me, we should especially not forget about these 2 programs. We should especially build on the excellent results of these 2 programs. We think by merging the 2 programs, you receive a larger program area, you have more possibilities for new partnerships, where you have economies of scale, you have reached a more critical mass, so which should make it easier in some cases to develop new projects which were not possible before. And especially when we look at areas like innovation, which has a predominant position in your program, especially I think a larger program with a larger area is a very good basis on to develop new innovative projects. But also in other areas like climate change, tourism, and supply and development of skills, I think it's good to have a larger area where partners across a larger area can cooperate. It was already assessed, the cooperation with the Sami. It's very good that also this is now horizontally integrated into the program, which was before mainly concentrated in the Nord program. And we see also especially the preservation of cultural heritage, the language and the culture and the traditional knowledge of the Sami population, indigenous population, that was already very well supported in this program period. And we also would hope, and we look forward to see that also the Sami population will become more involved in the business projects and the projects working on innovation, so that the involvement will be broader integrated also in all the areas of the different program. And we're always interested from the side of the Commission to play an active role where you would like our support for this. So then a few slides on our vision on Aurora, on what we think are important and for Interreg in general. Well, the first one was already about the pooling of resources. I already mentioned this, the critical mass and the advantage of economies of scale. But of course, the Aurora program will not operate in isolation in your area. There are also other programs which are operating, transnational programs, Interreg programs, but also mainstream, what we call mainstream programs, the national regional programs in Sweden and Finland. They all have similar objectives, and I think it's very important to coordinate. And again, also I think your region is a very good example also for other regions in Europe with the Arctic Cooperation Network, where all these partners are coming together so that the funds being used from the European Union are used in the most efficient way, and where you can look for complementarities and synergies between the different projects supported under the different programs. And this especially builds also on this joint communication on an integrated European policy for the Arctic in 2016. Again, I think is a very good example of what we can serve for other regions within the European Union, and especially the cooperation with programs in the Baltic Sea area is very relevant for this. As already said in the introduction, the Green Deal is the overarching principle to which all budget from the European Union has to contribute, so also cohesion policy, so also Interreg, and so also Aurora. And we have set as a target that about 30% of the financial budget of the EU should contribute to climate change. And we also have been, also during the negotiations, have been translating this to the individual programs. And we're happy to see that on the basis of our observations and comments, you have been able to see to increase this percentage of the program which contributes to climate change has been increased from 17% now to almost 30%. So which I think is an important step also to show that the Aurora program also contributes to this overarching principle. And especially again, because we believe that your region is in some areas more vulnerable for climate change than other regions, and especially traditional livelihood might be affected by this. So I think it's important to reserve enough budget for this. And also on biodiversity, we have set a target of that at least at the beginning, more than 7.5% of the budget should be spent on biodiversity. And clearly on the basis of the program which we have been negotiating with you, you easily reach this target. The third comment is the partnership, and again, repeating what I said already before, to continue on the good partnership which was already existing before even the Interreg programs came into existence. So this is a strong basis because we believe that it's the basis, the cement on which you can develop new projects. In the introduction, you spoke about trust building and respect. I think these are key elements also of the partnership principle. I just want to draw your attention to that we recently launched a call for proposals under which 10 pilot projects can be supported in cooperation with DG Regio and the OECD, where we can offer support to new innovative ways to involve citizens in the implementation of the programs. So I think this is maybe an interesting area also for you to test out new ideas, especially in the Aurora program where now two programs have been merged. And the deadline for application for this is the 30th of April. So we just invite you to have a look at this and see if it's also interesting for you. Then on the next slides, we see that also one element which we have been promoting in the new programs is a stronger focus on the territorial dimension of Interreg. So really, and the concept which we have introduced there is the functional areas. So we would like to move away from more looking at administrative borders of regions, but really looking at what is really binding a region together, and this can differ from topic to topic. You can have, for example, a functional area on the basis of health. When there's a hospital in one of the regions, what is the service area of that hospital? But it can be also for universities, it can be different. For public transport plans, it can be different again. So you can have different functional areas within one program, depending on the topic. But what we would like to ask programs to look less at the administrative borders. The programs or projects are being supported within the administrative borders, but really are those projects which are being supported which contribute most to the cross-border cooperation, which have most impact. And that can be, for example, in principle, is cooperate, but as long as the impact is clearly for your region. So we offer there much more flexibility than in previous program periods. Support to small and medium-sized enterprise, again, is an important element in your program on the priority dealing with innovation. Again, one key message is that we think it's important to support small enterprises, micro enterprise in your region, but it should not overlap with already existing schemes which might exist already at national or regional level in the different countries. So what you have indicated, especially to work on innovation clusters and to support business networks, cross-border business networks, which is in addition to what is already ongoing in the national programs, we think is a good idea. And there we believe especially the focus should be on technology transfer to small and medium-sized enterprises, to micro enterprises, in order to create new jobs, to safeguard jobs up in the north, so that people also stay in the region and that there's not the risk of a brain drain. We think it's important that an innovative region like you can stay also innovative, and this depends also very much on the people working and living in your region and their capacity. And then finally, also one new element which we have introduced in the architecture for the Interreg programs is a new priority which deals with better cooperation governance. Because we are convinced that it's not only about investing in individual projects which contribute to better cross-border cooperation, but that you have to look also much more into the governance, how administrations can cooperate with each other, how can you overcome legal obstacles, how can you invest, for example, in trust building via people-to-people projects. So we think this is an important area to invest, and we're very happy to see that you also included this new priority, this option in your program. And when we speak about, for example, establishing cross-border cooperation structures, we have the European Grouping of Territorial Cooperation, the EGTC, as a legal tool where you can shape cross-border cooperation. We're happy to see that you have the first now also in the North EGTC for Kvarken, and hopefully more will follow, because it's a very good tool to organize cross-border cooperation, and where it also might be easier to draw from the European funds. On the next slide, well, the partnership, I think I already said quite a lot about that, so I will not go into much detail once more, but the Commissioner said also last week during the Cohesion Forum, we should not forget about the basics. And one of the basics for her is the partnership principle. And this is something which for all our programs is a key element, and she has been stressing this and giving more attention to this principle. And it's not only now during the preparation of the program, but throughout the whole programming cycle. So also during the implementation, the representation in the monitoring committee, being also potential beneficiaries. So we should open the door for all parties active in the region to participate in the program, because that builds a stronger basis and creates also ownership of the program. And it goes much wider than only the public administrations. So it's not only the national, the regional and the local administrations, but also civil society organizations, representatives of the business sector, representatives of the Sami population, which I think are important partners in your program. Also, one key element for our Interreg programs is always the support to small projects. It has been traditionally always an important element, more than in the mainstream programs, also because the budget is smaller, but also the typical one example are the people-to-people projects. They're very simple, bottom-up, straightforward projects, bringing people together on the different sides of the border, which build trust, which also having respect for each other. These are, again, it's in the DNA of our Interreg programs, and we also want to stimulate this further. But also the European Parliament insisted even that this would be anchored in the regulation. So in the regulation, it says now that each Interreg program should pay attention to projects, what they call of limited financial volume, so small projects. And we think we only can support this because, and then we also offer the tool within the programs to set up a so-called small project fund. because the rules can be, we have to be honest, the rules can be sometimes complex for managing European funds, with auditing principles, all the regulations which you have to respect. And certainly when you're a small beneficiary, it can be a kind of a turn-off for you to think, well, why on earth should I start to participating in this when it's so complex and it requires so much administrative work? And we understand this, but we can, to a certain extent, can try to make it more simpler. But on the other hand, certain rules have to be respected because we work with taxpayers' money. So some regulations have to remain. But that's under the small project fund. At least we can take away some of the administrative burden from those small projects and small beneficiaries of funding, so that they also are more encouraged to participate in the programs. So this is something which we would like to see how this can be further encouraged also in the new program period. And my final slide is about, we've been talking now, and we're here today for the kickoff meeting for Aurora, the financing program. Financial budget has been made available, or will be made available, but cross-border cooperation from our perspective goes much further than only Interreg, only the financing of individual projects. We should look much more what we can do also beyond funding to stimulate cross-border cooperation. And also within our unit, we're working on this since 2015, when we have launched a so-called big cross-border review and asking all the partners over Europe, what do you think are the major obstacles for hampering cross-border cooperation? And what do you think the European Commission could help, and what can do this? So this was the launch of a communication which was issued in 2017. And now we have an update of this report, which was launched last year, 21, which is European Border Regions Living Labs of European Integration. And the key element of this report is that we should not only look at cross-border cooperation as from the perspective of leading to problems, leading to cross-border obstacles, which of course do exist, and we should not ignore this, but also presenting it from a much more positive angle, looking to what extent cross-border regions can be a kind of living labs, can be kind of areas where you can experiment with new ideas, with new proposals, actions dealing with cross-border cooperation, because the European integration is most felt in border regions, both in a positive way and also in a negative way. And when we look back at the pandemic, when the ad hoc closure of the borders, it had a huge impact on border regions where people could not cross the border anymore, could not go to work, could not see family or friends anymore. So border regions are much more affected by decisions taken at European level. And we think that they can also be presented as a kind of areas where you can experiment with new ideas, test out new ideas linked to European integration before they are further extended to the rest of Europe. Well, in this report, I will not go into detail here, but in this report, we present 4 clusters. One is much more working on institutional cooperation, like, for example, promoting the tool of EGTCs, European Groupings of Territorial Cooperation. The second one is more on how we can ensure that people living in border regions have the same access to public services, like, for example, in health or education or public transport, like in more central regions in member states. The third one is focusing on labor markets, so especially cross-border workers. When you work on one side of the border and you live on the other side of the border, you're still confronted with a lot of daily administrative problems. So how can we ensure that there will be really one integrated cross-border labor market in some regions? And finally, the Green Deal, as I said before, overarching principle for all our programs. So how can we also experiment with new ideas under the Green Deal and test them out in border regions? For example, when you think about smaller scale cross-border energy infrastructure or on renewable energy sources. Those are all ideas which are within this report, and I think it's an important report for reflection. That's the main idea we had with this report, to also share with you, to get feedback from you, develop new ideas, and at the end of the day to start a pilot projects, but mature them, and then eventually also, when they are successful, to see how they can be integrated into the Interreg programs. So that's everything from my side. And once again, congratulations on this on this very interesting program, Aurora. Unfortunately, today the meeting is virtual. 2 years ago, I was invited to your region. Unfortunately, we couldn't come because of the pandemic, which had just started then. This time it will be virtual, and hopefully next time I can really visit your region, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Congratulations and all the best, and good luck for the implementation of the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Boymans, and thank you for sharing the visions, the Commission's visions on Interreg and on Aurora. This will help us keep on track. I don't know about you, but I have been talking so much this past hour, and I really need to get some coffee now. So let's all take a break, and we will meet back here at about 10:15 in Sweden and Norway, 11:15 in Finland. Bye for now.
No, okay. No. I think it's me now. Yeah. I have to get.
Welcome back to the Interreg Aurora kickoff. I hope we're all ready to continue. Next up, we will learn about what opportunities and challenges we are facing in this program period. Joining me here in the studio is Mr. Jukka Teres, Senior Researcher at the Norwegian Research Center NORS. Welcome, Mr. Teres. I'm glad you could join us today. What do you see in the future for us?
Thank you and good morning everybody. My name is Jukka Teres, coming from Norse Research Institute in Norway and telling you about the major findings from the socio-economic analysis of the Interreg Aurora program. And next please. And here you have the content of the socio-economic analysis. As you see, it's a long list of items and issues, and we will cover and highlight some of them in this presentation of mine. We run the whole range of issues in this analysis, from regional facts to demography to labor market to industry, economy, but also culture, cultural heritage, and in the end some highlights of the SWOT analysis we did for the program. Next please. I thought I will start with the executive summary so you get right away the feeling what we did in this analysis together with the program committee. And we found out that the new Interreg Aurora program is program area is a wide program area with an abundance of natural resources, but also with a high level of knowledge. And we do have opportunities, we do have challenges, and I hope you will get some idea during this presentation. We cover climate change, we cover green transition, we also have something about the COVID situation. But I think the program nicely falls into the EU policy for 2021-2027. Next, please. I hope many of you find your region in this regional facts picture, and I will not go through the details, but I think the big picture here is important. Our program area is quite big. We are almost as big as France as a program area when it comes to geography. But when it comes to population, we are altogether between 2 and 3 million, and France is between 60 and 70 million. So we are sparsely populated. But within the region there are differences. Next, please. And the demography was one of the issues we really wanted to focus in this socio-economic analysis. And we find an overall population decrease. But when you zoom into the new program area, you find also some mainly coastal areas with already a forecast of growth. But aging trend, that continues, and I think that is something which slowly but surely affects our region, and we need to do something about that. When it comes to some area, the demographic development is following quite a lot the pattern of the rural areas in the north. Next, please. When it comes to labor market, our program area follows quite a lot the Nordic average, but is somewhat lower there, and the unemployment rate in the program areas is about the same, on par with the Nordic countries as a whole. When it comes to industry structure, the big picture is that we are strong innovators if we follow the EU category. However, we are not at the level of the metropolitan cities when it comes to R&D per capita. But I think the situation is quite promising to start the new program. Next, please. I wanted to show this slide to you to illustrate that our research development world in this Interreg Aurora is really abundant, and you don't need to go through all, but I counted them: major universities of applied science and R&D centers, and I came up to 46 different organizations, institutions. So there is a lot to grasp from this potential that we have in our Interreg Aurora region. Next, please. When it comes to health and healthcare, we are statistically we are on par again with the average of the Nordics. There is a nice detail of 34% of people in the program area hindered by illness or disability. Statistics talk what they want, but I think the more important thing is the travel time to get to the emergency hospitals, and there we have some challenges due to geography and long distances. So there is long travel time to the peripheral parts in the program area, and that is a fact that we have to live with. Next, please. And when we go to smart and green, which are the buzzwords of today, but they are also important words, I think we have a program area that is a combination of sustainable utilization of natural resources, but also we have initiatives to promote advanced technology. And this combination is, I'm sure, kind of dominant for the coming years. Green transition as such is increasingly on the agenda, as we know. And big companies, large-scale investments are there already. We have a nice green transition going on, but we need to get everybody on board, and also the SMEs to really get this green transition going on during the program period. And the COVID time, of course, it has hit hard some areas of industry, for example, tourism, and now it's time to find new ways, sustainable ways to recover with, let's call it tourism 2.0 in our program region. Next, please. Infrastructure and connectivity. We know we have long distances. We know we need new solutions. There is a constant lack of cross-border air traffic connections. Electric aviation is on its way. Let us see which kind of steps we can take during the program period. However, we find also now in the new program area that we have shorter distances, for example, in the Gulf of Bothnia. So it's not always many hours we need to tackle there. And there are high hopes of getting more transport on rail also. Digital connectivity, that remains a challenge in some parts of our program area, even though in bigger cities and municipalities we have quite a nice coverage of data connectivity. Next, please. After having a look on these, let's call them harder issues, we have also the culture and cultural heritage included in our program. And I think this is a win-win situation now that we combine the North area and Botnia Atlantica. Now we have a rich cultural heritage. But the knowledge on culture across borders needs to be strengthened. We simply need to know more about the possibilities, the new openings. And I think the sustainable tourism concepts are really welcomed and good practice there, at the same time respecting and promoting cultural heritage. The Sami culture, language and heritage is an important part that needs to be sustained and developed. Next, please. Smart specialization is yet another concept that has raised much attention already during the previous program period. But now I think we move into the next phase of smart specialization, maybe sustainable smart specialization, which is the S4 concept that is coming more and more. And our individual regions are doing quite well with their smart specialization. Now we need more interregional and even transnational cooperation. And we have one good example from East and North Finland called ELMO program. There are good steps towards interregional smart specialization cooperation. So I think there are signs of progress coming. Next, please. We are coming closer to the end of this presentation. We have here some summary comments about Interreg Aurora in a Nordic context. And there are some industry branches that are common to every region. For example, tourism. I think every region has opportunities, challenges and ideas for the tourism. That is one of common interest. But we all try to strive to reach higher in the value chain in our region, independently of the sector. Innovation performance, it's still largely concentrated in few hotspots in our region, despite these 45 or 46 research institutes. So it would be nice to get it even more expanded where possible. And then the sustainable use of natural resources, that remains an issue all the time, and we want to respect the nature, however we want to sustainably utilize the natural resources. And next, please. Then we move into the final section, which is the 2 SWOT slides. And the complete SWOT of our region's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats is available at the Interreg Aurora material. But for this presentation, I bolded and highlighted some points of this SWOT analysis. And if I start with the strengths, economically, we have strong industries. We have valuable natural resources. We have good innovation system. Socially, relatively low in unemployment, high level of education. Environmentally, promising cases of green transition. And the uniqueness with Sapmi and shared history, heritage, traditional knowledge. From the weaknesses, we know we have constant lack of competent labor. And I took up this KIPS, knowledge intensive business services. These we need more in our program area. Aging population, high transport costs. They are also inside the SWOT. And also I had the Sapmi comment there, young people moving out. And then the last but final slide, which is the opportunities and threats. How does the future look like? And I think we have a good future with Arctic branding possibilities of many businesses, digital leap, the Arctic, the inclusive way, our way. Unique with Sapmi, unique Sami businesses. It's just to utilize these opportunities. From threats, we still need more international cross-border businesses, pressure on services so that the negative spiral will not continue where it is. Negative consequences of climate change. And Sami languages and culture, they are threatened. We have to take care of them. And then my concluding slide will be thank you It is about the current situation, and instead of describing the situation on February 24 and after, I chose to take the summary text of Black Swan events. Black Swan events describe events that come as a surprise. They have a major effect and they are often inappropriately rationalized. And we had the first Black Swan already with the COVID. Now we are facing other Black Swans. However, to conclude, I think the basis of the Interreg Aurora program holds, even though we have to take into account the latest that is happening in the geopolitical situation. Thank you for your interest. I stop here.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Teres, and thank you for your wise observations. Let's continue talking about opportunities. Ms. Ingela Nilsson, Head of Businesses at the Swedish Sami Parliament, is joining us via link from Östersund. Welcome, Ingela. Tell us, what opportunities do you see for Sápmi in Interreg Aurora? Okay, we're having some problems with Miss Nilsson. She's not here. Maybe we'll take a couple of minutes break to see if we can get her online. I'll see you in a few minutes.
Do you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay, we're having some connectivity problems with Östersund at the moment, so we changed the schedule a little bit. So now it's time for the real kicking off of this kickoff. I'm delighted to introduce to you the official kickoff film of Interreg Aurora, a film where all of the program participates. In the next minutes, we will meet representatives from all 10 regions, the 3 Sami parliaments, and the managing authority from the County Administrative Board of Norrbotten. Let's go.
Förvaltande myndighet för Interreg Aurora och hela Aurora-teamet är redo att lansera vårt gemensamma program för gränsöverskridande samarbete för de kommande 7 åren. Är ni redo?
Tack så oerhört mycket. Jag är så fantastiskt nöjd och stolt över att nu efter 2 år, när vi samtliga 10 regioner har jobbat i ungefär 2 års tid tillsammans med Sápmi och respektive regioner. Och nu är vi framme i ett färdigt dokument över Interreg Aurora för nästa programperiod. För det finns så otroligt mycket samverkan som behövs i norra Norge, norra Sverige, norra Finland. Där vi har likartade förhållanden. Och det visar ju väldigt tydligt idag när vi tittar oss omkring att ljuset kommer ju, som vi brukar säga, alltid från norr. Och det här är ett dokument jag ser verkligen fram emot kommande programperiod. Tack!
Vi har nu valt ett namn på Europas nyaste Interreg-program, Interreg Aurora. Programmet kommer att möjliggöra många spännande gränsöverskridande samarbeten.
Interreg Aurora har en helt ny programgeografi uppdelat i 2 delområden, Aurora och Sápmi. Vårt geografiska område är i ett europeiskt perspektiv lika stort som Spanien och Portugal tillsammans.
Keito. Interreg Aurora är ett unikt EU-projekt. Det ska stärka urfolket samerna och utvecklingen i Sápmi, ända från nordsamiskt till sydsamiskt område.
Kiitos. Tämä Interreg Aurora-ohjelma on hyvin monipuolinen. Se pitää sisällään monia hankeaihioita ja aloitteita. Me alueet yhdessä saamelaiskäräjien kanssa olemme valinneet 4 painopistealuetta, joita yhdessä työstämme eteenpäin. Ole hyvä.
Programmet ska främja forskning, innovationer och smart specialisering. Gränsöverskridande samarbeten ska bidra till övergången till en klimatneutral och cirkulär ekonomi. Interreg Aurora ska stärka företagens konkurrenskraft eftersom det är företagen som är nyckeln till en grön omställning, till nya jobbtillfällen och välmående samhälle.
Luonnon ja ilmastonmuutokset eivät tunne valtioiden rajoja. Interreg Aurora-ohjelma priorisoi hankkeita, jotka auttavat sopeutumisessa muuttuvaan ilmastoon, luonnon ja biologisen moninaisuuden suojeluun sekä kestäviin kuljetuksiin.
Tervehdys Pohjois-Pohjanmaalta täältä Oulusta. Olen Mari-Leena Talvitie, maakuntavaltuuston puheenjohtaja. Olemme innolla mukana Interreg Aurora-ohjelmassa, sillä näin aikoina kaikki yhteistyö on tärkeää.
Interreg Aurora-ohjelma asettaa etusijalle hankkeita, jotka tukevat rajat ylittävää yhteistyötä ja vähentävät rajaesteitä. Ohjelma edistää uusien verkostojen perustamista ja yhteistyötä. Tämä myös kasvattaa ohjelma-alueen houkuttelevuutta.
Interreg Aurora pahtala tehalas resurssa sami kulttuura, ielahusajja, kielai suotjalan ja optitan parkkuus. Programma pahta optiti ja paiti houtan ärpätietu tai heke ärpävirollas sämetietu optitan parkkuustis.
Interreg Aurora skal bidra til en positiv utvikling i hele Europa. I vår region har vi sterke forskningsinstitusjoner, vi har sterke næringer, og vi har store naturressurser og en rik kulturarv. I dette samarbeidet skal vi bygge videre på.
Bærekraftig utvikling er et overordnet mål for Interreg Aurora, helt i tråd med FNs bærekraftsmål, Agenda 2030 og EUs Green Deal-strategi. Vi er og skal fortsatt være helt i front i den grønne omstillingen, både når det gjelder digitalisering, teknologisk utvikling og når det gjelder arktisk kunnskap.
Täällä min puhkai tuotkin servivuodas tuotan takkat Interreg Aurora-programma visiona otsparka raajairasta. Ni illudit ainus mahti riikka raajairasta otsparku, outa muunin puhkaide kehorru ja parikit min programma kuevlus. Täällä ille härä ko norka saametikipieli savva mikkiä puhkaide hui olu lihti.
Ett stort tack till er alla som har bidragit till att vi faktiskt står här idag. Nu är vi redo att lansera Interreg Aurora-programmet. Och nu kör vi!
Now this is cooperation. I love it. I am so much looking forward to seeing the program start and new partnerships and projects come together. I think we have managed to get Ingela online, so we'll go back to her now. Welcome, Ingela. So tell us, what opportunities do you see for Sápmi in Interreg Aurora? Okej, vi fortsätter tydligen jobbet med att koppla upp Ingela här. Nu är det ju it's almost like in the Swedish mellow. When you go direct on camera, you never know what's gonna happen. So we're also waiting for Miss Ingela Nilsson, who's head of businesses at the Swedish Sami Parliament. She's supposed to join us via link from Östersund, but we're having some problems with the link at the moment. Ingela, are you online?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Welcome, Ingela.
Thank you.
Tell us, what opportunities do you see for Sápmi in Interreg Aurora?
I have some pictures. Can you?
Yes.
I don't see the pictures.
We do, so you do your talk.
Okay, I tell you when you are going to moving the pictures on.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Whew. Thank you very much for the invitation to talk about the Sami area and the Sami development within the Interreg Aurora. My name is Ingela Nilsson and I'm working as head of Sami businesses in Sami Parliament in Sweden. My first picture, if you see the picture, is a picture of the Sami area, and sorry. There's a large Sami business conference in Kautokeino right now with many Sami participants from Sweden, Finland and Norway. And right now, in fact, our colleagues from the Sami Parliament in Sweden and Norway are holding a working class regarding Interreg Aurora for Sami entrepreneurs. And it's an important opportunity to be able to inform about the Aurora program and its possibilities for the Sami people. For us Sami, the Aurora area is fortunately located in the center of Sapmi region. When Sweden and Finland became members of the EU, this means that the Sami area was noticed and included in the Interreg program, Interreg Nordkalotten and the Nordic Green Belt. For us, it was fantastic that there were programs that, like us, cherished and encouraged cooperation despite national borders. That cross-border development was important without having to sacrifice our own uniqueness. Today we are experienced interregional users, and we have also realized that despite all our work to break down border barriers and develop cooperation, the national borders are there, just as usual. And it's okay, because we live in peace. The situation of the last few weeks regarding the war in Ukraine are deeply disturbing. And my thoughts are constantly wandering away to the Ukrainian people and their terrible situation. It also reminds us all of the importance to working together and developing together across national borders, that we are neighbors, those you hang over the fence and talk to. And this is important to realize what cross-borders cooperation means. Can you change the picture? I just want to talk about the arbedetto, the the traditional Sami knowledge. We must start with it. We Sami take our starting point from arbedetto, the traditional Sami knowledge. It's the base of our culture. Arbe means, it's not Sami language, and means inheritance, and detto means knowledge. But it can also be linked to the word gettit, to know. Arbedetto, traditional Sami knowledge, which includes heritage, traditions, customs, and way of life, are the cornerstones of the Sami culture. For us Sami, however, arbedetto is not only an old or aging knowledge, but it includes knowledge that is used today and is constantly evolving and changing. Arbedetto describes knowledge both as information as a process. And I'll give you an example. In order to conduct reindeer husbandry, the reindeer herders' knowledge of the reindeer, the pastures, the weather and the seasons is important and sometimes absolutely crucial. But it's as important is the reindeer herders' ability to act on the basis of this knowledge. Therefore, we must talk about arbedetto. If you change picture. In the Sami region, the Sami businesses community consists for the most part of micro enterprises. There are few business clusters if you exclude the reindeer husbandry companies, and many entrepreneurs are found in the countryside. To stay and live in the traditional Sami area, you often need several sources of income and several legs to stand on. We therefore need to work for common Sami corporate nodes and in different industries. We also need to work to make Sami entrepreneurship visible and in a better way market the uniqueness of the Sami culture. However, we need to develop our entrepreneurship on our own terms and decide what and how we want to use our culture. For example, we have good opportunities for developing Sami tourism, as it is both small scale and sustainable. And we have our very own story to tell. We can use our traditional food, our histories, and our traditional industries. Change the picture. And I think the picture is about the languages now. To take back a language. If you saw the first picture on the map, you saw the several of the languages borders went in an east-west direction without regard to the national borders. This means that the Sami language has great development opportunities in the Aurora program, and support is needed because the Sami language is threatened. We need to take back the language, to develop it and give it an obvious place everywhere in Sápmi. The language contains so much of our history, industries, culture and traditions. More efforts are needed, and we must work to ensure that children and young people maintain, develop and regain the language. It can be done in several ways through the development of teaching materials, language nests, knowledge transfer between generations, educational efforts at different levels. It's also about making the language visible and accessible in several ways, via media, books, films, etc. And educate translators and interpreters who in addition can develop the businesses with the language as a base. We change picture. I will not talk about exploitation today, but it was a sad day, the day before yesterday, when the Swedish government announced that it was saying yes to mining establishment in Gallok, right in the heart of Jokokaska, Sameby, Sami village, and this grazing area. Therefore, the indigenous people of the world are severely affected by climate change because their survival, cultures and economic resources are directly dependent on nature. The traditional knowledge of indigenous people will be a key factor in meeting the global challenges. They, or we, often lack the resources to adapt to the changes and risk ending up in a very vulnerable situation. This is a reality even for the Sami. It can be stated that there is a great need for efforts for climate adaptation that meet the Sami community. It would be interesting to use the Sami traditional knowledge, arbetitja, in collaboration with other sciences to joint efforts to develop climate adaptation measures. There is potential to protect biological diversity through cross-border cooperation, but also cooperation, industry versus research. Climate change affects us all. Change the picture. The Aurora program offers opportunities to develop cross-border cooperation in a more systematic way. The Sami Parliament in Sweden, Norway and Finland has already a cooperation body, Sami Parliamentary Council, but needs to refine its work in order to develop Sami self-determination. Even other organizations also need to be strengthened. There are small joint Sami associations that organize writers, musicians, artists, etc. And these collaborations have great development potential. Breaking down border barriers is an important path to develop cooperation in several levels at the Sami area. Now I have given some input in what I think. The Sami area is big and I am just one person. But I think there can be important development areas for Sápmi. However, a 7-year program is a long time and a lot of things can happen. It will be exciting to see what we can achieve in the meantime. Keitodan bien oftese. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingela, and thank you for your insights. We have now heard about some challenges for us in the upcoming program period, but also a lot of opportunities ahead. But as most of us know, preparing an Interreg project isn't all that easy. There is a lot that we need to think about to be able to write a successful application. Luckily, we have a smashing team set up at the Aurora Program Administration, and their job is to help you. We have 4 program officers from the Aurora Secretariat here to tell us a little bit about the program priorities and to give some practical information. Hi you all, and welcome. I'll leave the floor to you. What do we need to know before we start writing our projects?
Thank you, Sara. And welcome to this session or agenda point. I am Victoria Furskog, and this is my colleagues Kristoffer Björkman, Gabriel Bölske, and Tina Nilsson. And we are all part of the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Aurora. The film we saw a few minutes ago showed us how huge the program area really is with the 2 sub-areas, Aurora and Sápmi. And we will tell you more about the 4 priorities and specific objectives of the program. The program is not yet approved by the European Commission yet, but we will tell you about the priorities as they are today. In the end, we will tell you more about the first call and give you some practical information in connection to that. But before we start, we also want to thank you for the questions that you have sent to us. Most of them we will be able to answer during our presentations today, but I think that we would now move on to the priorities of the program, and I will leave the word to Kristoffer, please.
Thank you, Victoria. Before we start, we just want to give you a heads up that the next part will take about 20 minutes, and it's quite a lot of information about the different priorities and specific objectives in the program. And furthermore, keep in mind that when you apply for projects in Aurora program, you can only apply to one specific objective. Now we continue with the presentation, and the first priority is smart and sustainable growth. And the first specific objective is called Smart Specialization, Research and Innovation. There are strong industrial and research environments in the program area that can develop, test and market sustainable solutions based on the expertise we have within the program area. Together, these actors have both resources and expertise that will contribute to the EU's Green Deal. This includes sectors such as blue and green technology, transportation, energy, food processing, forestry, manufacturing, and construction. The Aurora program will promote research and innovation activities in public research centers, higher education, and centers of competence. Activities should enhance sustainable cross-border cooperation based on strengths and needs in R&D and education, using the regional specialization strategies as a point of departure towards circular economy. Interreg Aurora will stimulate to create a critical mass in the region that can reach out to research programs such as Horizon Europe. Through projects funded from Interreg Aurora, the partners can build institutional capacity, trust and structure that enables them to invest in major research projects internationally. Cross-border cooperation dealing with research and innovation activities in small and medium-sized enterprises, including networking, should contribute to the transition towards a climate-neutral and circular economy that takes care of the environment and biodiversity, yet which also promote the program area's competitiveness. The program's activities should facilitate dialogue so that higher education, research institutes and business can develop innovative-driven projects. There is a need to strengthen business-driven R&D actions and applied research which seek to enhance the development of SMEs and increase the level of commercialization. Interreg Aurora will support activities in Sápmi to contribute to the establishment of local innovation networks at the intersection between business and academia, between science and traditional knowledge, and between tradition and the contemporary. Furthermore, the program aims to help create greater networking between Sami actors, building the structures for R&I in Sami businesses, and promoting cooperation. And the second specific objective within priority 1 is called competitiveness of SMEs. And to compete on the international market, the program area needs to develop a strong and competitive business sector, focusing on sustainable growth, green transition and social inclusion. The program particularly encourages cooperation between clusters to build on complementary strengths. There is a great potential in the merging of specific competences in the different clusters to create new knowledge networks and areas of strength in the regions. Through increased cross-border cooperation within SME, business development and internationalization, the region's businesses can access knowledge and resources, which in turn will develop their commercial activities and strengthen their positions internationally. To boost competitiveness and the transition toward sustainable development, it is important that enterprises integrate diversity, gender equality, circular economy, and sustainable solutions in their business model. The program area faces challenges that must be solved for the region to be able to participate in the digital transformation. Advanced technology development, which with the industrial applications, new business models, and the ability to change the organizations and develop staff competence are required for the utilization of new technology to be possible. Digitalization concerns all of industry and public sector. Development is fast and there are great risks in terms of competitiveness of falling behind. There is a need to increase the level of digitalization in manufacturing SMEs and actions targeting the uptake and use of new digital technologies related to industry. Most companies in Sami industry are micro-enterprises in which Sami culture and traditional knowledge form the basis of Sami businesses. The companies are often composed of seasonal combinations of different activities. It is therefore important to collaborate in organized manner across borders to increase the development of different industries. Interreg Aurora will stimulate the cooperation between private and public actors working to develop Sami businesses. And now over to Victoria, who will continue with priority 2.
Thank you. Aurora's second priority is green and sustainable transition and has 3 specific objectives. The first one is climate change adaptation. Since the program area is partly very industrial, the adaptation to a sustainable use of natural resources is highly prioritized. The climate change has a great impact on the biodiversity and cause extreme weather conditions. Methods and testing of tools to monitor and surveil the effects from the industries is needed, and urban spatial planning needs to be adapted to rising water levels, heavy downpours, and droughts. Climate change also causes pollution, floods, and erosion, and great risks to humans, societies, and the environment. These risks need to be clarified and minimized, and shared knowledge of methods can help sectors such as agriculture and forestry. Research on how the climate change affects our national parks, world heritages, and Natura 2000 areas are important, as well as how the management can be adapted. Restoration of mayas, peatlands, and wetlands to increase the carbon storage, reduce the CO emissions, prevent forest fires, and increase the local biodiversity are examples of activities. We also need to increase the common knowledge and best practice for handling and prevent climate-related accidents, and know how to coordinate strategic rescue services. The climate changes are also affecting the reindeers in Sápmi in many ways. Concrete actions can be mapping of grazing lands, methodologies for field inventory, solutions on winter feeding, and researching climate-related diseases in the reindeers. Protection of the Sami cultural heritage and the use of the technologies to reduce the risks of negative impacts in Sápmi are 2 areas that are very important within this specific objective. Next specific objective is nature protection and biodiversity. The program area has valuable and Arctic nature with sensitive natural resources. The climate change is affecting the movement and habitats of animals. The healthy ecosystems are also closely connected to provide our area with economically important goods, tourism, clean water and air, carbon storage, recreation, and food. The purpose of this objective is to develop coordinated system functions, increase the range of services, and strengthen stakeholder collaboration. We need to raise awareness about the sensitive Arctic nature and the understanding of biodiversity and ecosystems. Joint commitments for protection, preservation, and restoration of human interference are important to develop effective management methods. Mapping movement patterns of animals and disruption of natural food chains or nature management that reduces the vulnerability of ecosystems are examples of activities. We also need to cooperate in preserving nature reserves and world heritages and the biodiversity in the water areas, as well as develop a greater capacity in the water management. Green infrastructure and spatial planning in both urban and rural areas are important for the future. Biodiversity and healthy ecosystems are crucial to the Sami ways of living. A long-term perspective and a sustainable way of living has always been the basis for the Sami traditional livelihoods. Sami customary sustainable use and arbetieto are therefore important contributions to land and water biodiversity conservation. The third specific objective is sustainable mobility. To reduce the program area's carbon footprint, we need to reduce the emissions from mobility and transports and make the logistics systems greener. The emissions do not stop regionally. To strengthen the attractiveness of the area and competitiveness of our enterprises, we need to develop well-functioning sustainable solutions for goods and passenger traffic. This must be done by investments in development and testing of technologies that leads to less carbon-intense transports in urban areas and hinterland. Close links between transport and energy sectors can explore autonomous mobility, energy storage, and alternative fuels such as hydrogen and biogas. Digital solutions can minimize time, cost, and emissions and ensure obstacle-free and streamlined movement across the borders by buses, trains, and electric vehicles. In this, it's also important to encourage the population towards more sustainable actions as urban cycling infrastructure and fast charging of electric vehicles, for instance.
Thank you, Victoria. Now we have talked about the Aurora program's priority 1 and 2, and we will soon continue with 3 and 4. But before that, just a reminder to our audience, as we said in the beginning, when you apply in the program, you can only choose one specific objective to focus on. For example, if you apply in priority 1, you can only choose one of the 2 specific objectives. Or in this case, for priority 2, you can only choose one of the 3 specific objectives. But now we continue with priority 3, education, culture, and sustainable tourism. Within this priority, there are 2 specific objectives to choose from. The first specific objective is called education and lifelong learning. The Aurora region must develop a diverse and high-quality cross-border education area to attract people to learn, retain, and live here. In order to meet future opportunities and challenges, it is necessary that the labor market can be adapted. The ambition is to strengthen the region's skills supply. Activities should enable more cross-border employment opportunities, stimulate efforts to bring more people into work, and improve productivity. To achieve this, the program area needs a strong and wide range of educational providers. Activities should encourage the educational providers to focus on improving access to digital learning environments and methods. The region's businesses, public sector, labor market, education and integration stakeholders must also work together to ensure that the right skills are available. The Sami educational institutions and other Sami organizations are important when imparting knowledge and culture as well as developing skills. For future development of the Sami education, it is also important to collaborate with other educational institutions in the Aurora region. A continued dialogue and cooperation between the countries can be established through cross-border training programs, workshops, exchange of experiences and networking. Development of the cross-border education, lifelong learning and training within Sami society must be based on traditional Sami knowledge, arbetsgetto and sustainable development. The second specific objective is called culture and sustainable tourism. And the Aurora region has the potential to attract tourists to several destinations which are situated in different countries. This requires joint cross-border marketing and strengthen cross-border accessibility and mobility solutions. Cross-border partnerships and networks can strengthen the sector and support export initiatives. By increased collaboration between culture, business, academia and society, the region will be strengthened and provide development and growth. The program's ambition is to strengthen sustainable tourism, culture and livelihoods in the region through cross-border collaboration and knowledge exchange. All projects shall focus on contributing to the development of sustainable enhancing of the role of culture or sustainable tourism in the program area. Sami tourism has to be based on authenticity and genuine Sami values. A great potential for growth lies in the development of Sami products and experiences, for example in Sami food and doji. It is important to strengthen and develop the Sami culture and cultural heritage, Sami languages and preserve what is unique for the Sami community. To contribute to the strengthening, development and progression of Sami culture, there are needs for documentation and protection of Sami culture monuments and Sami cultural landscapes, as well as the continuation of traditions and customs. By making the Sami accessible and visible, a positive outcome is created for future generations. And now I will hand over to Victoria, who will speak about the last priority.
Yes, thank you. The fourth priority of the program is better and more sustainable cross-border cooperation. And there is only one specific within this priority, cross-border capacity building. To increase the cross-border capacity building in the program area, we must start by strengthening the local and regional cross-border governance. Mutual trust is needed to minimize cross-border obstacles. Regional and national bodies must show willingness and actions. Therefore, the activities shall stimulate common understanding and mutual agreement of the development of the area. The key elements for better functionality is improved east-west connectivity. Together with our neighbors, we can increase the attractiveness and critical mass of the area. The actions within this priority can be about the small things between people to people on grassroots level to big collaborations between authorities in 3 countries. It can be about common regional strategies, action plans and legal obstacles, or cross-border cooperation in search and rescue, security, proactive works in times of a crisis, and environmental management. Identify areas where the cross-border statistics is needed is also an important area. Actions must be taken to attract people, particularly women and the young in the north. We need simplified regulations and lower administrative obstacles in the labor market. A wider acceptance for curriculums and skill certification and recognition of education across the borders in the area is needed. Our long distances make regional functionality and capacity in sectors as elderly care, health care, mental care, health and well-being very important. Fulfilling missing links in transport and mobility and other value chains is also an important area of cross-border cooperation. Feasibility studies for large cross-border regional investments is closely connected to that. When strengthening the institutional capacity in the area, clustering between the EU programs in the Arctic cooperation can be valuable as a tool in many different areas. Sápmi is already east-west orientated, but self-determination of the indigenous people and the capacity of their institutions needs to be enhanced. Sami policies apply beyond the state framework since they are one people in 4 countries divided by state borders and perspectives. There is a lack of mutual understanding between the Sami people and other people in the program area. That's why it's important to create awareness and knowledge about the Sami people and their cultural heritage and nature management. Other areas that needs to be developed in cooperation between Sápmi and the Aurora countries are tax obstacles, healthcare, child welfare and education, nature-based tourism, and the culture and creative industry. Okay, so now you have had 20 minutes crash course in our priorities of the program and the specific objectives. I guess you are wondering what kind of support that you can get from us at the Joint Secretariat. I will leave the word now for my colleagues Gabriel and Tina, and they will tell us more about that. Please.
Thank you, Victoria and Christopher, for guiding us through the program priorities. And to answer your question, yes, as applicants, you can expect support from us at the Secretariat. We want to hear from you at an early stage. When you start discussing an idea, please get in touch with us. This is because we offer project consultations, where we listen to your idea, and based on that we give feedback and do our best to answer your questions. By doing this, we want to give you valuable feedback and valuable support in your planning process within your project partnership. So, one important message to you today is that you have the opportunity to book a project consultation with us. Before such a meeting, we want you to send us a short description of your project idea, and you can find the template on our website. Speaking about the website, we will come back to that in a few minutes. So, what is important to consider when planning a project, and what is a good project, Tina?
Yes, thank you, Gabriel. Soon we will talk a little bit more about the different project types in Aurora. But first of all, I would like to highlight that regardless of project type or budget size, this is what signifies a good Aurora project. First of all, a good project is in line with one of the priorities and one of the specific objectives of the program. Secondly, cross-border cooperation is central in Interreg. So a good project creates a clear added value of working together across borders. Furthermore, a good project contributes to the 3 dimensions of sustainable development: ecological, economical, and social sustainable development. It is also important to build an adequate partnership in a project. Projects with partners that are relevant with regards to the topic of the project and where all partners are involved in the writing of the application as well as in the implementation of the project is often very successful. So what more can we say about what signifies a good project, Gabriel?
Yes, let's move on to the next characteristic, relevance to target group. Of course, a good Interreg Aurora project is relevant for the target group. Based on experience, a project that clearly defines their target group and involves them, both in project planning and in project implementation, stands out when it comes to being a successful project, especially in securing lasting results. We know this from evaluations from previous EU programs. Also, to move on in the list, a good project has a common thread in project planning. A common thread between the challenge the project aims to tackle or solve, the planned activities, and the expected outcome for the target group. This common thread is part of what we call project logic. Theory of change is one model. It is worth doing an exercise on project logic within your partnership. A clear project planning will definitely benefit you in the project implementation phase. Finally, in our list today, public funding such as Interreg needs to be handled with care. Projects need to be cost efficient. There must be value for money. So now that you know what signifies a good Aurora project, let's focus on some practical information that can be useful when planning a project. Tina, I leave the floor to you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Yes, and in Aurora there will be 2 project types, small scale and regular projects. And small scale projects could be either a pre-study or a smaller implementation project. The budget for small scale projects will be 20,000 euros per participating country as a maximum, and the project time is 6 to 12 months. Regular projects are implementation projects that normally runs for 36 months or less. Regular projects within Aurora can be longer than 36 months if there's a strong justification for this. There is no limitation on the size of the budget of a regular project, but all costs must of course be relevant with regards to the activities and the scope of the project. So, as Gabriel said, cost efficiency is really key. A project needs to have partners from at least 2 of the program countries, which means a minimum of 2 partners in total. There is no upper limit on the number of partners in a project, but it might be a bit administrative burdensome to have too many partners. The Aurora program will make use of simplifications for applicants in budgeting and reporting. For example, will different types of flat rates cover certain cost categories in regular projects? For small-scale projects, a lump sum model will be applied. More information on these simplifications will be up on our website. The funding percentage is 65% EU funding for Swedish and Finnish project partners and 50% ER funding for Norwegian partners. This means that all projects must ensure to have co-financing for the project. The co-financing could be either public or private, or a mix of public and private funding. There are various possibilities for public co-financing, and there are some differences between the three countries in terms of how you can apply for this funding. In Finland, one part of the co-financing can be national co-financing, which will be handled by the Regional Council of Lapland. The project budget will be specified per partner, so this is something to consider already in the application phase, where you will be asked to present a budget per partner. With this said, we would like to give you some information about the very first call in Interreg Aurora.
Yes, because now we have started the countdown. We will open the first call on June 21st, and last day to apply is August 23rd. And starting next year in 2023, we plan for 2 calls every year. When the first call opens, you can start register your application in the online system, Min ansökan. There will be one joint application for all 3 countries. This is something new and applies both for EU funding and if Norwegian partners take part in the project, also Norwegian IR funding. Regarding co-financing, make sure to follow the instructions from each co-financier on how to apply for co-financing. The program language is English, and for US applicants this means that the joint application needs to be in English. As I said before, we hope to hear from you. If you have questions or if you have a project idea that you would like to discuss, please contact us at the Joint Secretariat. At the Secretariat we are 10 program officers, and we are part of the total Interreg Aurora team with representation in 8 different cities in the program area. 9 different cities, sorry. No, 8. It's hard with the numbers. In Norway, Tromsø and Snåsa. In Sweden, Luleå, Umeå and Östersund. And in Finland, Inari, Rovaniemi and Vasa. I think that adds up to 8. I'll double check with my colleagues. They give me the thumbs up. That's good to hear. Already today you can find useful practical information on the program's new website. It was launched the other day, so please take a look after this event. Please listen to us for the time being. For example, on the website you can find a document with information about the different sections, the content of the application form. You can also find the program draft on the website if you want to know more about the program priorities and the specific objectives. And more information will come. The full program manual is still work in progress. We are working hard to get everything in place to give you as applicants all information you need. But we also need to wait for the first meeting in the monitoring committee, who need to decide on certain topics. Having said that, the 4 of us are ready to wrap up this session. We hope to hear from you. We hope to meet you in person in Skellefteå in June. And now I'll hand over to Iris next to me, because it's time for Iris and Ian to conclude this kickoff.
So, thank you, Gabriel, Christopher, Tina and Victoria for the great information about Interreg Aurora and what possibilities the program will offer. Now it is time for me and for my Norwegian colleague Ian to close the event. It has been an interesting day with opening speech from the Commissioner Elisa Ferreira and with Pascal Boymann's presentation concerning the next generation of Interreg programs. We have also heard Jukka Teräs giving us a picture about the socio-economic analysis and the situation in the Aurora program area. And also Ingela Nilsson's interesting presentation concerning the possibilities with Aurora for the Sami society. The official kickoff of the Aurora program was introduced by a film, a very exciting happening, I think. It was so nice to see all enthusiastic people talking about Aurora. And I realized that the program area is really big after listening of all these 10 regions and 3 Sami parliament representatives talking in the film. But Ian, before we say goodbye for this time, I would like to ask you, why is Aurora important for the Norwegian partners?
Yeah, thank you, Iris. Yeah, in the light of the current situation in Europe, many have spoken up for strengthening of the European and Nordic cooperation. Interreg is a good tool for this. People-to-people cooperation, green transition, and sustainable development. Economically, socially, and environmentally are all pillars for the new programs. Not only cross-border cooperation with Sweden and Finland, but also with the rest of Nordic countries, the Baltics and EU. I think that the new Interreg Aurora program will be interesting for Norwegian stakeholders because of the wider program area and also the program objectives. Through cross-border cooperation we can establish new networks, share knowledge and best practices. That will strengthen our local communities and businesses to develop new services, products and management in a green and sustainable manner. Norway has good opportunities and expertise in many fields, as well as solutions to share. Participation in partnerships and collaborative projects will make it possible to build on good examples, as well as develop and improve one's own work and service deliveries. Collaboration provides knowledge about the market and value chain and opportunities to showcase them to a wider audience. Green and blue value creation throughout Norway will benefit from the new Interreg programs, but this requires Norway to allocate sufficient fundings and establish predictable frameworks conditions for supporting Norwegian partners. And from a Norwegian management organization perspective, we have been working to lower the threshold to participate as partners in Interreg. Harmonizing and simplification are key elements here. One application, one language, and simplified cost options. We have also established one system for application for regional funding for the program areas such as Aurora and Northern Periphery and Arctic. Despite the unbalanced financial capacity between Norway and the European Union, I think we will be able to participate in projects that will have an impact on Norwegian communities, businesses, research institute and public sector. So I wish you all good luck in the new program period, and I'm looking forward to receiving your project application, which I'm sure will help us, will contribute to strengthening the program's areas, competitiveness, sustainability and attractiveness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, and I can only agree representing the EU side. Norway and the Norwegian partners are really important in our future projects. You have so much specific know-how and best practices that will be valuable in coming Aurora partnerships. As you have heard, the program is not yet approved by the Commission. There are still some formal steps left, but hopefully the approval will happen in near future. And as you heard earlier this morning, we are going to celebrate the achievements from Nord and Botnia Atlantica programs in Skellefteå on 7-8th of June. On that physical event, you have also opportunity to meet partners, future project partners. So welcome all to Skellefteå in June. Thank you, Ian, and thanks to all speakers of today. Thanks to Sara, who has moderated this event. Thanks to Anna-Marie, who has worked very hard to make the event possible. And thanks to Elin, Magnus and Caroline, who have been responsible for the techniques. Finally, thanks for all you who have participated on this kick-off event. It has been a pleasure to have you with us. I wish you all a nice afternoon and let us start the Aurora cooperation. Thank you.